Hello everyone. This tutorial is going to give you an overview of Kami, the great annotating software that we have available for our students to annotate PDFs. But we're also going to talk about the workflow of how you can get your PDFs ready for your students, and then also how you can put those PDFs into an assignment so that when the students open it, they open it using Kami, they annotate it, and they can turn it back into you. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the different types of PDFs that there are out there. There are PDFs that are actual editable type text. There are PDFs that look like they're editable type text, but they're really just an image. And then there's PDFs that are just images and intended to be an image. So the first one I'm going to show you is this one called Olympics. I'm just going to open this PDF. And you'll notice that when I open this PDF, if I click and drag over the PDF, I'll actually be able to highlight the text. This is a really good benefit when you're going to do an assignment inside of Kami. So it's not the end of the world if you can't do this, but it is definitely a benefit. The next one I'm going to show you is this one called Harry Truman. I'm going to open this one. And it kind of looks like the one I just had open. But the difference is when I try and grab onto the text that's in that window, it actually doesn't highlight. I'm trying to highlight the text that's in this window. So this is what we call a PDF, but it's really just an image. Okay, so this is what you would get if you scan a piece of paper using the copy machines. So when you scan something on the copy machines, this is the format that it puts it in. It's still not the end of the world, and I will show you some techniques during this tutorial that will show you how to get around that as well. And then finally, the last one that you might have the need for is an actual image that could be considered a PDF. Now this one's got the extension PNG. That's okay. That's going to work inside of Kami as well. You can load PDFs inside of Kami. You can load PNGs, JPEGs, those types of things inside. So if I open this one, this is just a black and white version of the United States, as you can tell. Okay, but again, very, very similar to that PDF that I just had open. There's no clearly there's no text on this image, but there's no way for me to highlight anything on this this image. Okay, so even if the image had text on it, I still wouldn't be able to highlight it. But again, what I'm going to show you with the techniques of Kami, this part is not really important. I just wanted you to understand the different types of PDFs that there are out there. So just the basics of how Kami works. Kami is an extension that lays on top of Google Chrome, your Chrome browser. So all faculty members have to physically load the Kami extension. All right, and I have sent links out for this in the past. Jennifer just sent this out in your training email that you got yesterday. And so that's the critical piece. You need to load that. The students don't have to worry about loading that because we automatically push that out to their devices. So they don't have to worry about that at all. So first up, get that Kami extension loaded. Then you've got to create a PDF or somehow obtain a PDF that you want to use as a part of an assignment. So I've got some documents here in my PDF folder that I'm going to use as my examples today. But I also just wanted to show you the workflow of how to make your own PDF. So here I am in a Google Doc. I'm in the Google Doc that I presented to all of you for your recording of your direct instruction and posting to YouTube. And so let's say you have this Google Doc, or maybe you've got a Microsoft Word file, or maybe you have a PowerPoint or a Google Slides file that you want to convert into a PDF and you want your students to annotate on that. So any Google Doc, Google Slide, or Microsoft Word or Microsoft PowerPoint, or maybe it's a Smart Notebook file, whatever you have, you have the ability to create a PDF. And it's as simple as this on your Mac. You act like you're going to print it. So I'm going to do a Command P. That's the shortcut for printing. And I get this dialog box. And all I have to do very simply is click right here where it says PDF, and I say Save as PDF. It brings up a dialog box. I navigate to the folder that I want to save it to. I can rename it, or I can keep the same name, and I click Save. Another way, specifically in Google Docs, is that you can go to the File menu and select Download as PDF. But this will go to your Downloads folder, so you'll have to make sure that you remember that that's where it went. And then finally, if you're in Word, and I'm not going to show you, but if you're in Word, you just go to the File, Save As, and the PDF option is in your Save As dialog box. So you've got 3 different ways. Print in anything. Chrome, you can go to Download as PDF. And in Word, you go to File, Save As, and save it as a PDF. In every other application, the print will work without a doubt. So I'm going to get back to my Finder window, and we'll see that there's my recording paper. And this is now a PDF. It will open in preview. It is one of those that is highlightable. So I wanted to just make sure that everyone understood how to get a PDF and the different kinds of PDFs. So now you've got the Kami extension loaded. You've got your PDF ready to go. So now what? So the next thing we're going to do is jump into your Google Classroom environment, and I'm going to show you how to add an assignment and use the embedded Kami extension to add that assignment for your students. And then the students are going to complete that assignment in Kami and then turn that assignment back into you using Kami. So we're going to walk through that workflow right now. The first thing you want to do is go to your course that you want to add that assignment into, and you're going to click on Classwork and then create an assignment just like you normally do in your Google Classroom. But what you now have available to you is this option called Kami Assignment. So we're going to click on that Kami assignment. It's going to give you the same similar setup when you create any other assignment. You can choose the settings up top, give it to maybe a particular student or the whole class. I'm going to call this Olympics Feedback. And it's here that you can give the instructions for the assignment. You can tell it how many points, whether it has a due date, schedule it right now, however you want to go about doing this. This little box down here is a choice that you have to make. What's going to happen if you have that box checked is it's actually going to send some instructions, some Kami instructions to your students via email. Some teachers have found this to be a little confusing because the kids get this email and they're not quite sure what to do about it. So just again, a suggestion, maybe think about it before you check that box. So if you don't want to send that email to the students that contains instructions, then go ahead and uncheck that box. The next thing you're going to do is connect that PDF to this assignment. So attach would be if you had it maybe in your on your desktop, or maybe it's in your downloads folder. This button here is what you would click if that PDF was located somewhere in your Google Drive. I'm going to go ahead and click that button, and it's going to bring up my Google Drive environment. And I went ahead and I made a copy of my PDFs folder and I put it into my Google Drive. But let's just go across the top here. I've got my Drive. The PDFs choice, this is kind of cool. It'll actually search your whole Google Drive account and show you all the PDFs that it finds in there. That's a pretty powerful thing. You guys don't have any shared drives. Recent is makes sense. Just pulls up any recent PDFs that you might have used. And then if you use if you use the starred feature, some of you do use that inside of your Google Drive where you star files to make them very easy to find. So that's that option as well. So I'm just going to click on my drive. I'm going to double click on my PDFs, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to connect the Olympics PDF to this assignment. So I'm going to click select. And then I can go over here and click assign. So this dialog box tells you that the assignment was created. And if you want, you can send your students the link with the instructions on how to use Kami. Again, it's your option if you want to send that instructions to them, or if you want to go through things with them, maybe a screencast that you create or a live session. So I'm going to click this box here, the X, and then I will see there is my assignment that I just created as the teacher. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip over to our student Abraham Lincoln. So now I am logged in as Abraham Lincoln. And I can see that Abraham Lincoln belongs to my demo classroom. So I'm going to click on that. And inside that classroom, I see in my stream that the teacher has posted a new assignment. So if I go into the classwork, I'm going to click on that assignment. I'm going to click that PDF. And this is going to be the key part of this Kami integration with your Google Classroom. And you will just have to make sure that you walk your students through this so that they open it in the correct fashion. So what you want to do is focus their eyes on this blue button in the upper right hand corner. It is this blue button that they're going to use in order to open it up inside of Kami. So I'm going to click that blue button. And what it's doing now is it is opening that PDF and it's opening inside of Kami. Now there are a lot of tools along the left-hand side, some very fabulous tools, very cool annotating tools, from highlighting all the way to the student adding their own little video right inside of this Kami PDF. But I'm not going to cover any of those in this training. I do have another training tutorial. It's called Kami Tools Deeper Dive. It is posted on my YouTube channel, and it's also posted on the OCS Technology Hub in the K4 tutorials. So check that out, and I take a real deep dive into each and every one of these tools and how they interact with these PDFs. I also explain all of these tools up top here. So we are just going to do a very brief process with this just so that you can see the workflow. Right now we've been given, as a student, we've been given this PDF. And so now I'm just going to do a couple little minor annotations. The easiest one is the text highlighter. So I'm just going to go and click on that. And I can see that I have pink as my color. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to highlight the year 2016. And it's going to highlight that in pink. So maybe based on your directions, you're asking your students to highlight certain portions of this document. Now, if you remember back when we were talking about the different kinds of PDFs, this particular PDF is one that has highlightable text. Notice when I'm clicking on the text, it's actually highlighting the text, and then it adds the annotation to it. But do you remember the other PDF? It was the, show you here, it was the Harry Truman PDF. If you remember that one, when I tried to drag over the text, it didn't highlight the text. It just kind of highlighted the whole document. So if you have any PDFs like that, as I said before, it's not the end of the world. There is this second highlighter tool. And if this was just an image or something like that, I would just take, and I'm going to pick a different color here. I'm going to take this yellow, and I just click and drag and make a rectangle over what I want to highlight. So it's not actually highlighting the text, it's just creating a highlighted box over the text. So that's a way to get around if you've got a PDF that is not that highlightable text and the students can still highlight. Now, there are some tools in here that don't work unless it's a highlightable text, but you'll learn all of that in the Kami Tools Deeper Dive. So let's assume that the student has done all the things that you've asked them to do on that document and they're ready to turn this PDF back into you. Very, very simply, in the upper right-hand corner, there is a turn in button. So if you click on that turn in button, the students will click there and they're going to click and notice the name, which is awesome. It names it Abraham Lincoln and then the name of the PDF. So I'm going to click on turn in. And the first time the students do this, they're going to have to authorize Google Drive. So don't get thrown off on that one. And then they'll have to pick their Google Drive account. I want to make sure I pick the right one. They'll only have one choice, clearly. And then they have to allow all of these things. And I would say just, walk them through it and just have them click allow. And these instructions, by the way, are in those emailed directions. So that might help you. But it's your choice. Okay, so once we've submitted once the student has submitted their PDF, they're done. Okay, so now we're going to jump back to what it looks like for you so that you can grade it. All right, so now we're going to click back over to your Google Classroom and open up the classroom that you have available. Go to your classwork, open up that assignment, and you'll see that you have one turned in and one assigned. So that's awesome. I can click on that one turned in. I can click that assignment that the student turned in, and I can see those things that the student highlighted in that document. Now you may notice that this looks a little odd. Remember we highlighted in pink these little guys and then this one was yellow. So here's a very cool piece of the Kami environment. If you go over here and click this box that says Grade with Kami, this is where some real power comes in. It opens the Kami window right inside of the Google Classroom grading window. You actually see all of the tools the students saw when they were annotating the PDF. You see all of their annotations. You would see if they added a video on the side or an audio file. But the really cool thing is that you can go in and you can annotate some more. So again, I'll go to the highlighter just to make it simple for this particular tutorial, but know that there's all sorts of other things, like you can add a little voice memo to them as a comment. But let's say I want to highlight the word Tokyo. I'm going to highlight that in purple. Okay. And so you then would give this a grade, maybe. You'd add a private comment, just as you typically do when you grade an assignment for your students. But the other things that you can do is you can return that assignment back to the student. So I'm going to say I want to return this back to Abraham because I want him to take another look at that purple Tokyo and I want him to do something. So you're going to click return. You're going to, it's no grade and so on. So you're going to return that to the student. All right, I'm going to flip back over to Abraham's environment. So here I am back in Abraham's Google Classroom environment. I'm going to click on the demo classroom because that's where this assignment is. I'm going to click back on classwork and reopen that Olympics feedback assignment that I already annotated, but the teacher gave me some feedback. So I'm going to click on Open with Kami. And when I do that, So not only can I see the annotations that I did as the student, the pink and yellow ones, I can also see the annotation or the feedback that my teacher gave me. And so I can say, oh, I was supposed to highlight Tokyo in pink as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, make that pink. And then now I'm going to resubmit. So you can see over here, it now says resubmit. So I can resubmit this assignment back to my teacher. And you can go back and forth as many times as you want until you as the teacher are satisfied with the work that your students have done. So I'll end with a think out of the box kind of a concept. Maybe you might want to pre-annotate a PDF with some annotations that you want to then maybe have the students continue with when they open the PDF in Kami. So if you want to do this step, you're going to open the Kami extension directly by clicking on the blue button. And you're going to tell Kami that you want to open a file either from your computer or from your Google Drive. Now, for my Google Classroom teachers, my K4 teachers, notice you can also create a classroom assignment right from here. So there's a nice little shortcut. There's also a new blank page. So that's kind of a cool feature. So if you want to check that one out, it's got some blank line type of backgrounds, and it's got a grid paper. So you might want to check those out as well. So maybe there's a PDF that you want to pre-annotate with some things on it already. So I'm going to say open from Google Drive just to show you a little bit how this works. And I'm going to go into that same PDF folder that we talked about in the previous sessions. And I'm going to open one of these other PDFs. So I'm going to open, let's say this guy, the Harry Truman one. Because remember, that was the one that was the non-highlightable text. Look at what it does for me. It says, hey, this seems like a scanned PDF. Would you like to have me run OCR? That stands for optical character recognition. And so it will try and recognize all of the text that it sees on there. And what I found is that it does a pretty good job. So give it a try, run it. If you like it, use it. If not, maybe don't use it for that particular PDF. This particular one has a couple columns and it's got a map, so that might be a little confusing. I'm just going to say no thanks for this one, and I'm just going to leave it as it is. So let's say you want to add a little pre-annotating to this file. You could do some highlights, you could do some text boxes. One thing that you might find to be very helpful for your students is a voice comment. Now, again, you're going to learn all of these tools a lot better in that deeper dive video, so make sure you check that out later on. But let's say I want to add just a little audio clip to this file. So I'm going to click right here, and it is instantly recording my voice, and I can give the students some little extra added instructions, or maybe some encouragement, or some tips or recommendations, or don't forget about this, or something like that. Once you're finished with your little message, and notice you can leave up to a 5-minute message, just crazy. You click the stop button. And then when you are done with that, you'll notice right up here, it says saved. So that saved my most recent changes, okay? So you might wonder, okay, so where did this file go? So let me just see if I can shed some light on that. So you're going to go to your Finder, and you're going to go into that folder that you opened that PDF in. So that was in the Google Drive, in my particular case, in the My Drive, in the PDFs, and that Harry Truman. But it doesn't look like anything changed. If I open that file, it doesn't look like anything changed. There's nothing. But you see this little box right there? It's kind of there. But Preview doesn't know how to understand that audio file. So just kind of keep note. You'll see some highlights because Preview understands highlights, but some of those fancy annotations that you might add ahead of time, just know that they're there. And then when you add this file to your Google Classroom assignment or your Schoology assignment, and if you add it using Kami, and if the students open it using Kami, they are going to see this annotation. So it'll take maybe once or twice for everybody to get the workflow, but the key thing is that you add the file in Kami, that the students open it in Kami, and that you reopen it in Kami to grade it or to check for whatever annotations that they did. One final thing to note is that Kami creates these folders inside of your Google Drive. If you're a K4 teacher, it creates a Kami Assignments and a Kami Uploads. And if you are a 512 teacher, it will create a Kami Schoology Assignments and a Kami Uploads folder. The Kami Uploads folder, from what I can gather, it's where Kami puts things when you've uploaded them from your downloads folder or your desktop folder. Like if you brought them in from an external source and they weren't already in your Google Drive. So it's kind of like the place that Kami says, all right, well, she brought this from the desktop, so I'll put it in this Kami Uploads folder. So just kind of keep that in mind, that if you can't seem to find where it is, and it used to be on your desktop, but the desktop is still the old version, the Kami version is now in this folder. I hope that makes sense. And then as students and as you create assignments and as students submit those assignments, then you're going to find things get accumulated in this Kami Schoology assignments if you're a 512 teacher, and in this Kami assignments folder if you're a K4 teacher. So just kind of keep aware of those folders and check them out as they begin to populate. So in review, I just want to remind you, we talked about the different kinds of PDFs and how to tell the difference from one to the next. We talked about it for my Schoology people. We talked about adding that Schoology assignment in and using Kami and the correct workflow. For my K4 teachers, we talked about creating a Google Classroom assignment with Kami and using the correct workflow there. And then finally, we talked about the Kami interface when you click on the blue button to just begin from scratch with a Kami file or a PDF file that maybe you want to add some annotations to. Our Google Classroom teachers, you can have a shortcut to create a Google Classroom assignment, and you can create a new blank page. There's a couple other little features that I won't cover today, and that's the OCR, which we didn't really cover. I mentioned it. And then also the split merge. So you can check those out at your leisure. So I wish you luck as you begin to add Kami assignments to your Google Classroom and Schoology courses. And please don't hesitate to reach out to Deb or myself for more assistance.